Do you know, I think that phrase is one of the most perfect in all of music. The balance between the four lines is just stunning. That's Dowland's great lute song, Come Heavy Sleep, famously used by Benjamin Britten in his Nocturnal after John Dowland. So thank you for joining me again for another mini masterclass in the art of the guitar. And what I'd like to talk to you about today is something I've touched on in other videos. But it's really about the story that goes on behind the scenes, which once you access it, allows you to unleash all sorts of exciting potential. The way I think about playing the guitar, indeed about all learning, is that it's very much like when you go and watch an illusionist. If you see an illusionist, they take you on a journey and they tell you a story in a certain time, and you follow that story absolutely avidly until at the end they produce something that feels like a miracle. Now, the only reason that they can produce that miracle is because there is another story going on in a different space and a different time which you are not aware of. And that's a little bit like learning and a little bit like taking guitar playing to a really high level. So I've mentioned before that the fingers are the end of the chain, but that's very often where we tend to look and put most of our focus. Let me go back to the beginning of this song, Come Heavy Sleep. And when people follow the line of that song and they watch you play, very often what they're looking at is precisely what I've just described, the movement of the fingers on the fretboard. Maybe a little bit on the right hand as well, but most people's attention is right here. But the reason that that piece can flow is not because of what the fingers are doing necessarily, but what's happening behind the fretboard. So let me play that for you again, and hopefully you can see this, but with movement. Just look at the movement in the arm now. So as I play, you might notice that the arm is never still, and it's moving in circles. As I come here, the only reason that I can play that descending inner line with ease is because my elbow is facilitating the placement of my fingers, and then I come back out here because I need to have the elbow out in order to rotate the fingers into alignment so that I can position them easily. Now just imagine if you've ever struggled with, chord shapes or well, anything really, any position on the guitar. It may be because you're focusing too much attention here and trying to get your fingers into shape. Some people play in a very kind of parallel fashion is how I think about it, and the movement along the string or across the string gains this kind of look. Now there are some people who can do that brilliantly, but for my money I think that the way that we're wired and the way that we're designed to move or evolved to move is in this kind of flowing circles and spirals. And what's a really good thing is if we can achieve a point where movement never really ceases. Not movement for movement's sake, not extraneous movement, but where the arm, once it's in motion, never really stops. So you never have to start again, which saves you an awful lot of energy. See how the elbow comes in here. Now, as I lift for this next transition, I'm going to take my hand back down the guitar. My elbow is already going. As I reach this point, my elbow's coming out, and that means that my hand eventually reaches a point where it just feels like, I've got to go. And so the movement is not a jump, it's a, I just have to follow. So let's take some simple ideas. If you take an A major chord and you're playing it with all the fingers on top of each other, you can do that several ways. You can have your hand parallel to the string, but then your fingers have to tuck in underneath each other, and that's actually ungainly, and you're working against yourself. Now what happens, if I rotate my elbow out, you can see straight away that the fingers come into line. So with my elbow out, that's a much better place to position my fingers. If I want to come down here, I don't want to have my elbow out. In fact, it will cause me pain. So this is a very obvious scenario, but to go from here to here is not about the fingers so much. If I do that all with finger movement, it's ungainly. The thing that allows me to make that movement is this: elbow out, elbow in. And that turns my hand and draws my fingers into alignment. And what you'll discover in a piece like the Britain which I'm playing, or any piece, is that when you get your arm into the right position that allows your fingers to move with ease, then all of your playing just becomes effortless. And the art is to arrive not too soon and not too late. So for instance here, if I come in and I bring my elbow in too soon, you can see it's still got a slightly, it's a chunky, clunky movement. But as I come down that descending line, da, da, dee, my elbow is moving incrementally. And I've trained myself to know exactly the sweet spot where my elbow needs to be for my finger to drop down onto the string without any strain and without any tension. And when you play like that, you have this continuous flow of movement going on behind the scenes. That's the story that allows you to make magic. So play around with that idea. I'm going to release more of these techniques and go into much more subtlety over the coming weeks. But at its most simple level, just thinking about your arm moving your fingers into position will change your playing and take you to the next level. So like this video if you like it, don't forget to subscribe, and I look forward to seeing you in the next film. Thanks.